Hi, welcome to the Taking Care of Tutu podcast. I'm your host, Meg Obenauf. Today, at the request of my team at Obenauf Law Group, we're going to have a solo episode about what you should do if you've been told that you're somebody's trustee and that person has passed away and it's time for you to start acting as their trustee. We're getting a lot of calls to our office about that. So my team thought it would be helpful if we could just put a little recording together to sort of explain what are the first things that you need to do if you find yourself as someone's trustee. So the first step I would say is to make an appointment. Well, first you have to get a copy of the trust. So assuming that you have that, usually the person who drafted the trust will have their name on it, the attorney that drafted it. So we'd like for you to get a hold of that attorney right away. Or not right away. It doesn't have to be, at the funeral, but soon you'd want to get a hold of that attorney. If that attorney has passed away or is retired, you'll want to reach out to an attorney who practices in that area of the law, um, which is estate planning and trust administration. So that's the kind of practice that we have. So we will be administering trusts for our own clients who have passed away, but also clients of my colleagues who are retired or who have passed away themselves. They'll contact us. And even though I didn't write the trust, I can still advise them on how to follow the terms of the trust and what they need to be doing. So I would say step one, um, reach out to the attorney that prepared the document or an attorney who's still practicing in that area. It's also important that, like, let's say you're here in Hawaii and the person you're the trustee for is on the mainland, you'll want to get an attorney. If that is a California trust, you're going to probably want to have a California attorney advising you on the trust because if it's under California law, it needs to be someone who's licensed in that state who can help advise you. So reach out to the attorney that drafted it. And then why is this? Because when you're named as somebody's trustee in the trust, you're their successor trustee, but you're not the currently acting trustee. Usually, when someone does a revocable living trust, they're the trustee during their lifetime. So if they've passed away, you are the next in line. You're the nominated next trustee, but you will need to have prepared an affidavit of successor trustee. That's the short 2 to 3 page document that says, okay, now I am the trustee. Typically, you'll have the person's death certificate attached to that. That's what you'll show. Um, Next step is we want to make sure that the trustee protects the assets and the personal property. I wish this wasn't the case, but sometimes we see that family members will come in and take stuff, especially if there's a safe in the house. Um, That's not great. That's not what we want to have happen. And I hate to have to say this, but sometimes the trustee does need to secure valuables from the home or even change the locks on the home if they're worried something like that is going to go on. Next, so that's kind of learning about the assets. We also have to learn about the bills. A lot of times this is the successor trustee's biggest concern. What money do I owe? I don't want the house to go into foreclosure. What are the bills? So one of the things that can be very helpful is while you're alive, making a list of the assets, making a list of your passwords for everything, even airline accounts or store accounts or streaming accounts. Super helpful. And the third thing is make a list of the monthly bills and how, not just what they are, but how they are paid. Sometimes things are paid automatically. Sometimes you have to write a check. Sometimes people use bank checks, like the bank sends the check. So making a list of what those bills are and how they are usually paid is super helpful for the trustee. One thing is you might have to arrange to sell real estate. So you'll have to hire a realtor, figure out how you're going to arrange for the sale. Sometimes one beneficiary is buying out the other one. So however that has to happen, you might have to follow, you're certainly going to have to follow the trust and you can get the real estate sold. Sometimes there's going to be disputes that have to be resolved. Sometimes those are small, petty types of things over personal property. We've had that happen. So we've had to write letters resolving those. Occasionally, people have had to hire counsel. People fight a lot over personal belongings. Um, so that is something that you will need to figure out. a lot of times people are leaving their personal belongings to their children, and we just suggest they do any reasonable way of dividing it, such as we'll all three draw straws. Whoever has the longest straw picks first, then you, then me, then you, then you, then me. We just take turns picking and then give away the rest that nobody wants. So that's a really reasonable way to do it. And we want to make sure that we don't ignore disputes and let them get bigger. Next, we're going to want to make sure to check with the accountant. So hopefully the person had a bookkeeper or a CPA preparing their income tax filings for them. So we're going to check in with the accountant. Lots of people don't have to worry about estate tax, but some people do. The federal exemption is $13.9 million this year. So most people don't have more than that they need to worry about it. But our state of Hawaii, is smaller than that. So sometimes people do need to worry about that. So we do need to want everyone to check in with the accountant to make sure that there's no estate tax owed. And also because they are going to have to file a final income tax return for the person who passed away.